Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone. This is Doug Brown, and welcome to DABCC Radio, a podcast show geared around everything IT. So I'm really excited today to have a company that I'm very fond of and have had on the show many times. But they have an update coming out. Actually, it was released last week, but the official announcement is today. So we're going ahead and posting the podcast and sharing with you what these guys are up to and their new amazing solution. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. We have Liquidware on the line today. Liquidware, they also went through a branding change too. It used to be Liquidware Labs. No longer do they have the labs. It's just Liquidware. So sort of cool. And they'll talk about that and what's new. And I won't steal their thunder. So let's just dive into it. So we have Jason and Jason Smith and Jason Mattox with us. And Jason Smith is the product guy, and Jason Mattox is the CTO. And they're just both really great guys, and I'm really excited about this episode. So with no further ado, it's just stopping my rambling. Let's jump into my interview with Liquidware and talking about their new solutions.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, to be with me today. It's been a while since we have had you on, and there's a lot of market changes going on right now, so I thought it would be a good time to bring you guys back on. Of course, bring us up to speed with what's going on at Liquidware, and then also talk about some of these, some of the changes within our space, right? So that being said, let's do that and maybe a little bit more. It's always fun to have you guys on, and Lord knows where the conversation goes. So for those who are not familiar with you, we have to ask the first question, which is, who are you and what do you do over Liquidware? So and we have two Jasons. So how do Jason 1 and Jason 2? I guess I'll call you by your full name. So Jason Mattox, can you tell us who you are and what you do over at Liquidware?
Sure. This is Jason Mattox. I'm CTO at Liquidware, and I pretty much run everything technical in the business. So anything from QA to product development, product management. I put on the CIO hat every time and again when I need to run the internal business as well. And just like to take the products forward and set the future direction and tone with the other management team members that we've got on the executive team. And this market is definitely fun for me because I've been doing this type of thing since the 90s, back when it was NT351 terminal server WinFrame, if everybody remembers those days. And then even go back to video over Ethernet, if anybody's done any of that direct ICA or Cirrus Logic cards and ISA rack. So all the problems we're solving from back in the 90s, we're solving them again today. They're just in a different location. They're in somebody's cloud or a big data center. It's a hosted desktop has been around forever. And a lot of the same problems exist, and some of the problems are worse. So it's a fun market to be in.
It is a fun market. Jason, sometimes I want to digress for a second and ask you sort of a future question. Some people say, like you said, all the problems we're solving today, we've solved before, but in a different way or in a different area, space, what have you. And some people say this space sort of has a limited lifespan. I disagree with that. I think actually the future is our space, is that, you mentioned the cloud. So real quick, where do you see the future? I mean, do you see this as a limited, or do you see this as really a growth industry?
Well, I think it's going to consolidate. I think there's going to be a consolidation of desktops that are going to continue to be put into the data center because the Windows 32 apps will shrink over time. They won't disappear. There's too many. I mean, I'm talking to customers still today that have 9,000 applications Win32 form. So a customer like that's going to take them 15, 20 years to get off of Windows-based apps. And I'm not going to be naive and say that they won't go away. They will. Certain verticals will convert to a web-based or mobile-based application platform. I think where things are at risk is more on the cloud side of the server part of the data center. SQL Server can now be fully hosted and managed by a cloud vendor.
Sure.
You can just sign up for a service and it goes away. And now you don't need potentially a DBA or somebody to manage backups or to deal with that piece of the server infrastructure. The server infrastructure, I think, is going to go quicker because those are less back-end applications. There's more front-end applications under our back-end. So I think that's where it's going to go. Windows 10 definitely makes everything challenging. Microsoft is trying to catch back up to Chromebooks and things like that by providing ARM-based Windows 10 and compatibility layers for Win32 apps, x86 apps. I think we're just going to continue to see Windows 10 proliferate as a single OS for the next 10 years as far as Microsoft's concerned. And they're not slowing down with these releases. So I think they're going to continue to gain market share. I think the tipping point that I see, when you see Office web-based that is fully feature-rich, functional as the Win32 Office, then things are going to change very rapidly. And Microsoft is getting there, but it's going to take them a long time. I think the technology isn't there. As we talked earlier, HTML5 web-based desktop isn't the best. You still want that thick, rich client to get all the multimedia experience you need. So over time, I think things will get better when it comes to the web-based delivery. But the Win32 apps, there's too many out there.
You got it. And we deliver via the web. It's fun to go to dabcc.com. I've been around for 18 years now, and originally hosted it on IIS. So I have an images folder, and in the images folder, I have all the images I've ever put on the website up until I went to WordPress, which is a couple of years ago, about a year ago. So I have some of the earliest Citrix images, and one of those, and every now and then, about every couple of years or something, I'll go look at that thing and just, thumb through, scroll through all those images because they're funny, right? To go back into the, 96, right? And see some of that stuff. And one of the old taglines was Citrix, we bring Windows to the web. And that's what it does. It's that bridge that takes the 32, 16-bit, 64-bit apps and brings them anywhere, anyplace, anytime. But we digress. But I can do that. This is my podcast show. I get to do as I please. So, Jason Smith, you're sitting there quietly. Can you tell us who you are and what you do over at Liquidware? And if you want to add to what Jason and I were talking about, please do.
Hey, Jason E. Smith. I use that E initial because it's as simple as my name is like John Smith or someone else, so I have to separate myself. But yes, I am VP of Product Marketing, Technical Product Marketing at Liquidware Labs, and as such, help guide the messaging for the company, and also very involved in product management too, with feature set, making sure that we stay competitive and on top of things. And this is a fast-changing market, especially as of late, and we're in exciting times. Today's podcast, I don't mind sitting a little quiet. I'm ready to let the smarter guys in the room have the talk. So I'll add color today, but that's a little about me.
Well, Jason, please don't be too quiet because I always enjoy chatting with you, and you don't sell yourself short. You're as smart as anyone in this room.
Oh, appreciate that. But then we end up in 2-hour podcasts,
yeah,
right? So
that is true. So that is my fear, right? But it's funny that you mentioned Jason E. Smith because I'm Douglas A. Brown, because Doug Brown and Jason Smith are two really boring names, right? So we need to.
That's right.
We need to have a conversation with our parents. So I wish they could have named me Jebediah or something like that, So anyway, but Jebediah Brown, that might have been an interesting name. Anyway, so hey, for those who are not familiar with Liquidware, can you give us sort of the 40,000-foot view of what you guys are doing over there?
Yeah, I will. So Workspace Environment Management, and that is a phrase that encompasses knowing the user experience of a user, even if you're going from a legacy environment, such as a Windows 7 environment to a Windows 10 environment, and we do that through Stratosphere. We also ensure the user experience and help you grow and scale whatever you're going to. That could be a Citrix rollout, VMware Horizon, or even Amazon workspaces these days, going straight to the cloud, full bore cloud, to know before and after and help grow and scale that with Stratosphere. And then with ProfileUnity being able to pick up the user environment management, you can even do that if you want from the legacy environment. Run ProfileUnity in your Windows 7 environment, whatever you have today. We'll port that to the Windows 10 environment, help you coexist. Majority enterprises we're finding have a mixture of some physical, some Citrix or VMware, and are going to the cloud. So we're in the perfect place at the right time. Let a third party manage your user environment management, especially with the leading features that you'll find in our stack, like Profile Disk and the ability to go across Windows 7 to 10, even if you have some 8 in there too. And then FlexApp is an integrated part of ProfileUnity. You can license it with or without ProfileUnity. If you have layering that works already for you, that's great. If not, if you want to try the industry's leading layering, according to us, that it's embedded in ProfileUnity, and you can assign application layers, not OS layers, application layers that are dynamic and remain dynamic. The majority of those application layers will work, package them once for Windows 7. They'll work in 10. They'll work in 8. As long as you match the bit level, those applications are package once mentality for the majority of those applications, unless the vendors massively change something in there between OS. They'll work across all those. You can continue to minimize your base image management by continuing to manage your images with MCS or PVS, or just a manual way to do that, even for your physical desktops, and layer your images on your applications on top of that. So that's a little bit about our suite, and we take you through that. And today we're going to, I believe, tell you about some of the newest things we have coming out in our upcoming versions.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys do have a new version coming out. Can you maybe, well, now is your time, Jason, and the Jasons. So it's like Office Space, but you're not the Bobs, you're the Jasons.
We're at the cutting edge of where we're going with ProfileUnity and FlexApp. And we also have a release of Stratosphere 6.0 coming up very soon. So I'd like to defer to Jason Mattox, let him talk about what's new in our latest version of ProfileUnity that we're about to ship.
Yeah, so ProfileUnity 6.7, we've been under development for probably about a year and a half. We tend to do a lot of things in parallel if we can. We've got a big enough dev team now, we actually can do a lot of different releases at the same time and schedule them out. So with 6.7, there's a big focus on our XenApp strategy for layering, and why that's really exciting. And XenApp strategy overall for the product, but mainly around layering. And XenApp itself introduces complications when it comes to layering, because customers want more flexibility. Today we can layer with XenApp, but it requires that you reboot the XenApp server to be able to layer. And it's really not assigned to the user, it's assigned to the machine of the XenApp pool. And what we wanted to provide really do session isolation for these layers. What that means is, Jason, myself, and Doug could all have different applications on the same XenApp server, but the applications are actually isolated based on the session. So we cannot see each other's applications. They're not even visible. They're basically masked in a way, away from the user. The OS can see them, the Citrix can see them, but the users can't dig around and find the applications because they're literally invisible. But if there is a common application that we all use, Office or Notepad++ or something like that, the session list just opens up. When you log into a terminal server or XenApp, everybody gets a session number, 0, 1, 2, 3. And basically, if an app needs multiple users to have access, first user in, the application layers in, it activates. Next user comes in, needs that same application. The system detects that, oh, you need that same app. It's already here. So I'm just going to open up the session list, and the app just immediately appears in milliseconds in time. And same thing for log off. If somebody goes to log off, but somebody that's logged in still needs that application, the application's not removed. But if nobody is using the application, last person out applications are removed from the OS, because these are dynamic, entries in the OS. These are a virtual registry, virtual file system. They can be manipulated and controlled. So this is that core XenApp kind of strategy. And the other part of this too is published applications. And this is a really fun conversation to have. Everybody out there that's published an application inside XenApp or terminal server or whatever publishing technology Generally, you've got to pick an executable. So you browse to notepad++.exe and you say, publish this to the web interface or to Project Columbia, if you've got a little history to you. So you publish the executable and then the app's available. Well, with what we're talking about, there is no executable. There is no Notepad++ in that base image. There's nothing installed. It's a clean PVS image or MCS, however you like to deliver. So we've literally solved the chicken and egg problem. We have a shim executable. We have a fake executable that has parameters against it that tells it, here's the application layer you're going to activate when the user clicks it. And we even go as far to say, we're going to extract the icon for you. So when you publish this little shim executable with this nice little pretty Notepad++ icon, the user looks and feels like everything's normal, but there's an extra 1 or 2 second delay for the very first user that opens or clicks on that published app, which is really our executable, which then mounts that VHD, activates the virtual registry and file system, and then opens that notepad++.exe for you. And the cool part is when that first user activates the app, everybody else that comes in, the app just opens with no delay whatsoever because it's already activated. And that is kind of what I kind of call unmanaged click to layer, because click to layer is part of the technology we're using for published apps. So we can literally deliver a full desktop, layers to a full desktop session isolation in that method, or we can go published apps. Because I know the market is fairly split down the middle as far as who publishes apps, who does this full desktop, sends an app and terminal server. So that's really exciting for us. And then there's this concept of click to layer I mentioned, and before I explain kind of click to layer, there's a method to the madness of why we created click to layer. We've always been promoting one application per layer. It just makes sense. You want to manage one app, you want to manage its updates. You don't want to have this big tangled ball of spaghetti, that you've got to deal with by putting a whole bunch of applications in the same layer. It just makes complexity. You're repeating the same thing from before. If you put 100 applications in the base image, it's very cumbersome to manage. So you put 10 or 15 apps in the same layer. You're not really solving the problem. The way we really want to solve the problem is one app per layer. Now I can maintain individual apps at a time, not to worry about taking down or maintaining multiple apps at the same time or breaking other applications. So there's a side effect with this. When you get a user that needs more than 10, 11, 12, or 15 or 20 application layers, there can be a delay on how long it takes for these application layers to appear in the desktop. Now, we never hold off the login. We always layer in parallel to the login process to give the user the best experience. In fact, when we look at our logins and we do tweaking like with Windows 10, we take a 10-second login without layering. It turns into about a 14-second login with layering. So there's only a slight overhead of that login because there's CPU processing power we're using to activate the layers. We can only tell Windows to go so fast. We tell Windows, I need you to activate 250,000 registry keys. It only can go so fast. So that being said, when you get to a large number of layers, there'll be a delay. The icons will trickle in the desktop. So how do we help this? How do we give the administrator the ability to manage one layer at a time, but then give the user the best user experience? We're trying to satisfy, two masters here. The administrators want to control the environment and maintain it the best they can. The users dictate if it's a good experience or not, right? Yeah. The users are always king. So click to layer allows us to give that pretty little shortcut on the desktop to give the appearance like that application is ready to be used. But it's actually a fake shortcut. It's, again, our executable. It's got parameters on it. It's got an icon that looks real. The user double clicks it, the disk mounts, the layer activates. So when you look at the 10, 15, or 20 applications, it's highly unlikely that a user is going to use all 10 or 20 applications every single day in their job. Maybe they do. Maybe in some environments they do. But this is just another option. So you can create a delivery strategy for layers. I can decide that these 5 apps they use every single day. Those are going to come in parallel to the login process. They're going to be ready to go as soon as the start button appears. I got these other 5 or 10 applications that they use on a monthly or quarterly basis. I can move these to more of a just-in-time or on-demand, or we call click-to-layer So when they double click, it's when that application activates. So it's really exciting for us because it allows you to have that strategy, and we can still do applications on boot. So I can divvy things up and say, you know what, this is my vertical app. Everybody gets it. I'm just going to do it on boot. Or if it's I'll be nice here. If it's an interesting application like a Epic that has hundreds of thousands of registry keys in a single application, frankly, that application could take 45 seconds to activate. That's on boot. Just activate that on boot before the user even gets there. It's ready to go. Most applications are nowhere near that size of registry, nowhere near that size. So those can be done during login. And the stuff they don't use on a daily basis, move it to click to layer. When they click it, it layers in. We want to make sure anytime we make a change to our layering technology with FlexApp, that you never, ever have to repackage your applications, if at all possible. And if we ever have to do that, I will promise you there will be a migration button that will migrate it for you to a new format if we have to do that, because everybody's been burned off by AppV 4 to 5 and just having a repackage between. I know layering products that can't go from one version of Windows 10 to the other. They have to do an in-place upgrade from one version of Windows 10 to the other. So with our layering, we try to avoid that if all possible. So literally, there's just a little button in there that updates the metadata. The format actually is the same. All we want is a little bit more information. And what we're looking for is the icon. That's what we're looking for. So we can provide a good user experience. So there's a little button you click on. It'll then extract the icon out of the layer for you, put it into the metadata, and then now you can deliver those layers, in this fashion. And we've successfully tested this with Microsoft Remote App published apps, XenApp published apps, and then VMware View RDSH published apps, and then soon to be AppStream from Amazon too, as well.
Very cool. Very cool. I was going to ask you. Yeah, you answered that question. What else is new in this version?
Well, on that same topic for XenApp, we now have a profile disk for XenApp. So profile disk for single user OS we've had for years now. And there's been this request in the market, well, can I have a disk that I can use for XenApp? This would contain my Office 365 caching. This would contain any OneDrive caching I might do, Google Drive, or any of those cloud syncing softwares, because they want to have a local cache on a block device. And an OST file runs better on a block device than it does on a network as well. So, that being said, we said, okay, we've got FlexApp. Well, FlexApp has some very neat technology in it that's kind of the building blocks for other things. And we're taking that filter driver technology, and we're able to take a user profile, from C users, percent username percent, and fork that to a personal VHD and do that for 50, 60, 70 people on the same XenApp server, each of them having their own disk. So that's an exciting enhancement for us that people have been asking for. We also have a process that you can implement, also a little template button you can deploy inside the product to do the indexing for Outlook on XenApp as well. So we've long had the indexing on VDI and single user OS with a profile disk. Now we can do the indexing as well for XenApp. So you can get your Outlook indexing back. You can turn that feature back on for your users, again, to give them a better user experience. The closest you can get to a physical machine, performance and experience, the better the user base is going to accept change, right? I've been that guy that walks in as the consultant, and you take all their kids' backgrounds and you rip them off their desktop and you give them a black screen when you gave them MetaFrame 1.8. And they revolt for a while. But if the performance and experience is good, by the time you leave that project, they didn't care about their kids' background because they got to do their job and get out early for the day. At the end of the day, when the system performed the way it should.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I have to ask, how is that different than what Citrix is doing? They spent tons of money buying Unidesk, and you hear, quite a bit about Unidesk. How do you, how's it different than that?
Yeah, so the Unidesk traditionally has always been focused on image-based layering. So they're kind of managing the image for you, compiling that image for you, and doing things like that. We have always been on the side of, and what Jason kind of called earlier, application-based layering, not image-based layering. So we're looking at applications. We're focused on the application itself, and we're delivering the application. And that's been something we've been doing for a very long time. So we have a lot of experience in what you have to do to Windows to make an application work. Because just because you turn on a registry key and the registry key appears in the OS, and you turn on a file system folder or directory, doesn't mean Windows is going to recognize what it has to do. So you have to tickle Windows. You have to push it, pull it. You have to massage it a little bit after you turn layers on and off. It's just not rip in, rip out. And we've been doing that for a long time. So we support services and drivers and things like that. We can package Notepad++ in just a few minutes, not in 20 minutes. We understand what you do and don't want in your layers. So if you take something simple as a Notepad++, we're 60 meg layer. Something like Unidesk is 1.2 gig. So there's a lot of things that they still need to learn in that front. And the click-to-layer technology, Unidesk doesn't have that either. So they're not able to do kind of the published application piece real-time on demand. They would have to do more of the compiling technology and bring it in on boot. And, feedback I've gotten from the shows and things like that is customers have been saying that, managing PVS images, isn't that difficult. So they're not sure they want to go down the path of Unidesk for the image piece of it. And I think the question they still have, though, is how can I consolidate the number of PVS images? Because that is time and money. Even though it's not super difficult, it's still time and money. The more images you have, the more memory footprint you have on your PVS servers. And especially if you're running PVS on a hypervisor, you're taking a big chunk of memory there. So that's kind of how we see the amount of time that it involved, disk space involved, success rate when it comes to what we do as FlexApp, what Unidesk would call as Elastic. We have more experience, and again, they have more experience on the image side. We're not going to go down the image path. That's their kind of cup of tea. So we encourage customers to install both products side by side. We can be up and layering in a couple hours. Definitely try Unidesk and see how many days it takes to get going. We encourage the bake-offs. We're excited because this is actually the first time in the layering technology that we're actually going to be above and beyond feature sets from an app volumes and a Unidesk. So we're very bullish and excited about this release.
So what if a customer has a different UEM solution or layering product? Can you guys run with that? Do they coexist?
Yeah, most of the time they can coexist. If the UEM solution has a kind of registry or file system filter driver, there could be a conflict. But we're working to make that more compatible over time with the other vendors, because obviously if you've got something that works and you're happy with the vendor and there's no reason to switch, we understand, but maybe there's an alternative for application delivery using our technology with FlexApp and just ProfileUnity just as the starter piece, just to kick off the layering. We can definitely work with those technologies, the AppSense, the Reses, the UPM, the VPM, the VMware UEM. So we can definitely work with those technologies in parallel.
So you mentioned AppSense and Res, or should be called Ivanti, right? Both those guys were just, AppSense a while ago was acquired by Ivanti, and just a few days ago, it was announced that Res was acquired by Ivanti. So, that sort of shakes up the industry a bit. One, I'll throw it at you. What do you think of that acquisition? Does that make a powerhouse? Two, does that make confusion? Or, what do you think about that? And do you work with them? If somebody was like, oh no, this is now a mess, we want to migrate to ProfileUnity, can you do that? What's that process like? I'll throw that at you.
Sure. So I think from Ivanti's standpoint, the automation platform that Res has is pretty good. It's an interesting cradle to grave management for a new employee, right? They start in the organization, you can automate different internal systems. You can tap into a lot of different internal systems to automate that cradle to grave. They come in, you provision X amount of resources for them. They leave, you deprovision X amount of resources. And it's self-service delivery as well. So that was a good move on their part. And we got to be frank, though. Now they've got two UEM products. From a somebody that is heavily leveraged in VC and what cost looks like, you have to look at costs and you have to consolidate. Consolidation will happen. It wouldn't be in their best interest from a cost standpoint to continue both products from a res UEM and an AppSense UEM. So one of them is going to have to fold, right, from a cost perspective. So, I see the res piece probably going away, AppSense being the primary piece of technology that they continue going forward. So that being said, either because of technology consolidation or channel consolidation or accessibility to, tech support, whatever it might be, from an AppSense standpoint, there's a little checkbox inside of AppSense that allows you to then hive out the profile back into its native form. When you do that, ProfileUnity can just come in and pull the data out. So it's literally, we've converted a customer that had 6,000 users in 48 hours off of AppSense into ProfileUnity. Especially when the customer knows AppSense really well, ProfileUnity is like a cakewalk, just super easy to jump in and manage the environment. It all makes sense. Res would be the same way, run them in parallel. VMware, UEM, most of those products, if we just run the products in parallel. AppSense is only the one that's really kind of heavy-handed because they store things in a database. They abstract it in a certain way. You can't see it. So most of the other products don't quite do that. So a little bit easier to run them in parallel and just log in, log off, and then turn off the old product and turn on the new. And then, frankly, the same thing for us. Because we store everything in the native format, you can just turn us off and turn us on. So we never lock you in. We don't hold you hostage. If you decide that you want to go a different direction in the future, you're more than welcome to.
Cool. Well, what about, on the same lines, what about, VMware's UEM or Citrix's UPM?
Yeah, same thing. You can run both products in parallel. And then, once we get one good log in, log off, we've got a copy of the profile from there. And then you could turn off the old technology and go from there.
Jason Smith, you always have something to say about, these acquisitions and, the changing in market space and things like that. Can I get you to, sort of pontificate about what's going on in the world today of UPM, UEM, EUC?
Yeah, well, as you know, I worked with Res for a couple of years in the United States. Actually headed up and put the first flag in the ground in the States. I
met you when you were at Res.
That's right. So that's been a while now, 2004 through 2006 and a half or so, and they had quite a few changes along the way. And and as Jason had mentioned, they became a company backed by multiple rounds of venture capital, and quite a different company later. Still, in some ways, a formidable competitor, and we'd really like to offer them, the best congratulations on making an exit there. Still good friends with the founder of that company. But it is an exciting time to all of a sudden be the independent UEM player in the market. And a few people will look to see what options are out there when the changes start rolling out from Ivanti, and we're in a great place. We're already up and coming and gaining a lot of partners and business from the changes that happened over a year ago with AppSense, and very, very many new customers coming in that way, and we're able to convert them just the way that Jason Mattox laid out. And we see that RES, the changes there will continue to be in our favor. So we couldn't be in a better place at a better time in the market. With that, and also the momentum that we have going with new ways to market through Amazon Workspaces coming on strong, being a true turnkey cloud provider in the desktop, and we're the premier partner in that area. I'd say premier, the only partner Amazon has in that area for UEM, and also the in-depth monitoring that we do and the application layering. So we're at the right place at the right time as a company, and the innovation that Jason Mattox laid out with click to layer and session isolation that we've introducing is only up from here. We are, just as a reminder out there, we're a privately held company, and we're not heavily leveraged in VC. The features that go into our products are in there because customers have requested them, and they're really truly market demand there. So a lot's to be said there. Other than a few initial rounds to get our company started, we have been fueled by our success and continue to be fueled by our success. And as I already said, right place at the right time. So we're excited about these changes and looking with an eye to the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. The Amazon stuff is quite interesting to me. I've said for a while, and I think we did a podcast not long ago, Jason, where I mentioned my I won't say love for Amazon, but I'm intrigued by that business. Amazon does not take prisoners. They're slow, methodical, thorough, and at the end they win. Right, to compete against Amazon is a very interesting thing, and I wouldn't want to be in that. I wouldn't want to be in anyone's shoes that sees Amazon in their rearview mirror. Right, I think that one day we're all going to wake up and realize that Amazon took our space. And
right, we liken Amazon and their cloud play to a very similar adoption curve to what VDI experienced. And I've discussed this a long time ago, going back to 2008, that the future of Windows is just going to be heterogeneous. Everybody thinks one way is going to win or another. No, look, and it's proven to be true. There are more ways to deliver a Windows desktop today than there were in 2007. And there'll continue to be more ways to do that. And companies need to remain dynamic. They need to be able to switch the way that they deliver Windows. And Windows is still the tie that binds because of the application world. But companies need to be able to switch the way that they're delivering Windows based on mergers, acquisitions. When they're rolling in other companies, they need to be able to switch it based on the fact that there's a new OS rolling out. Windows 10 already has Jason Mattox, 4 different versions of a profile in it. And we've helped a lot of our customers walk through all 4 of those profiles. We're recommending the latest version that customers really look to Windows 10 now because they won't have some of the headaches we had early on. But customers need to remain dynamic, and they need their workspace environment management managed by a leading third party. And we feel like that Liquidware Labs is really that's the main reason customers really should consider Liquidware Labs. Other than the built-in stacks, being tied to a vendor such as Citrix, we're great Citrix partners. We believe that you should use their embedded products up until a point, and when you get ready for that enterprise play, look to Liquidware Labs. Same thing with VMware, and we're at a great spot with Amazon as the market continues to evolve and there's more ways to deliver. Liquidware is the tie that binds those user experiences across, so you can grow and scale to those different changing dynamic models. We're also the tie that binds those user environment management across those operating systems and the way you deliver Windows. And lastly, package your applications once and then deliver them in the future. Who wants to repackage even because you've done an image tweak or something like that and you've broken all your packages? So we feel like we've got the best go-to-market in their technology for layering as well.
Jason, you said something sort of interesting. You said Liquidware Labs, and you guys.
I'm gonna have to break myself of that. I noticed that one of us said it early on. I can't remember.
It might have been probably me, but or maybe just come on, you guys have been around a long time. It's hard to have it to break.
That's right.
Can you tell us about what's happened? The joke was there was I don't want to say joke because it's not a funny ha-ha type of thing, but that you guys are no longer in beta. Right, there's no labs anymore. So, can you bring us up to speed? What's the deal with the name change?
That's right, and it's not so much as us being in beta as it was one of our core markets, VDI, being in beta almost. We've grown up, the industry's grown up, and VDI has rolled out into the significant deployments. We see cloud play from Amazon and others doing the same thing. And this is truly the future of the way that you deliver desktops in a dynamic way. And right, so the labs has been dropped as we've grown up, put on our big boy pants, and it didn't hurt that that it came at a great time when changes were in the market. It also didn't hurt that the domain liquidware.com became available too, and we were able to procure that. So it was a great time to rebrand as Liquidware, and it's saved us untold amount of time in the white papers that we do in space by not having to type the 4-letter labs out. So there's advantages all around.
Absolutely, and I like how you described it. That sort of nothing ever dies, really. You said, there's going to be a bunch of different ways, which almost contradicts what Jason Mattox said earlier at the beginning of the podcast in some ways. And I've always said, I don't ever believe in convergence. They always say people talk about convergence, and I don't believe in convergence. I think that, you can go back to the radio or the TV. The TV was going to kill the radio, right? It didn't kill the radio. Now we have AM radio, FM radio. Back then you had AM radio. Now you have FM radio. You have satellite radio. You have internet radio. You have tons of different flavors of radio, right? It just depends upon what suits you or what channel you want to watch, I guess,
Right.
But
Right.
nothing ever really dies. It just sort of maybe fades away a little bit. But.
Yeah, well, to meld and rectify what Jason said, I don't want to speak for him, but there will be prevailing winds.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
People will go in certain directions, but it doesn't mean you have to pull the plug on the way that you've delivered things in the past altogether. You need to keep up, and you need to stay dynamic, and you need something that will help you get you there. And that's where we see ourselves at a great place in history.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly, well, I don't want to speak, Jason's still on the line, so he can speak for himself, but
That's right.
I think that's exactly what he meant, I would say, is that it's a prevailing winds. So I guess the Jason's you guys share a brain, or the brain is so huge that it fits in both of your heads. Is that what
No,
you're
it's
telling me?
it's exponents. Remember that from math, Doug. So it goes exponentially when you put two Jasons together.
Jason to the power of 2.
That's right.
So I actually named my oldest daughter Berkeley, and so Berkeley Brown. And I told her, I said, Berkeley, when you grow up, you have the greatest initials. I was like, because you can sign I signed my name DB. I was like, and this came from her saying, Dad, you always sign DB. And I was like, yeah. I was like, but your name is great. I said, when you get older, you can sign your name, your initials real quick, B squared, B to the power of 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she looked at me, she goes, that sounds neat, Dad. I was like, yeah, I set you up, kid. I set you up. So, guys, that's all the questions I had. If there's anything else, I guess, I want to know, last words. Is there anything we left out that you want to share? 2, if somebody wants to learn more, what do they need to do? The click to layer feature is not out yet. If somebody, really wants to get their hands on it, is that possible? Can they contact you and get maybe in the beta, or, will you, what have you? Leave it at that. So.
Well, we're going to do a close to the chest beta program for Click to Layer. So yes, if you reach out to us, there's a chance you may be able to kick the tires early. And we're first name, last name at Liquidware. First name dot last name at Liquidware. You can reach either Jason Mattox or Jason Smith that way. And secondly, we're going to be at, and this podcast will live on forever, but here we sit in July. We're going to be at VMworld next month, so you'll be able to stop by and see us in Las Vegas. And we're out and about the Citrix user groups all of the time. So look at your upcoming Citrix user groups. There's a good chance one of our representatives or one of us will be there as well. And you can always reach us 24 hours a day, of course, at liquidware.com. And we'd love it if you followed us on Twitter. Give us a follow. We'll likely give you a follow right back. And you can download our products and be up and running, as Jason pointed out, in a couple hours for layering, and about the same amount of time for full user environment management with ProfileUnity, and add in another hour, and you can have Stratosphere spun up and be measuring your user experience, give you decision support for where you are today and where you want to go in the future, or to troubleshoot your environment to look at long logins, or where you might be having bottlenecks in a VDI environment. So Stratosphere, and we've got more information coming up. We'll save that for another podcast for what's new with Stratosphere right about the VMworld timeframe, and there afterwards. We'd like to schedule that up with you too soon, Doug.
Jason, I remember chatting with you, and I think I don't know if we did a podcast. We had to have. When you were, before I think Liquidware even acquired, what was it, ScriptLogic, or not ScriptLogic, ScriptStart?
It was a company named Intrigue, and the leading product was ScriptStart. That's right.
Yeah, and you were telling
we avoided you from writing scripts with ScriptStart. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were telling me I can have you up and running in a matter of minutes. And a matter of hours, we can do your entire company. So it's quite impressive that, 10 years, that was I think that was 2009, 2010-ish. And, it's 2017 now. And 7 years later, you can still do that in a matter of, minutes, hours. But yet the feature set is night and day, right?
That's right.
But yet the speed is still the same. That's
right.
That's
The main
really
architecture,
impressive.
not locking you in, no SQL databases that you have to spin up, no IIS servers, all that remains true. The feature set is more robust than ever. We've updated a lot of the code. Somebody once called us in the early days a conglomeration of scripts, and that never really was the truth. It was a lot of code going into the product, but we've updated the code along the way, but we've kept a KISS principle. That old adage, keep it simple, stupid, across all of our products, and try not to be complicated and keep that leading advantage. So there's a better way to do things. If you're out there doing it a harder way, give us a shot.
Yeah, well, I think that said it all. Jason, Mattox, anything else to say? I don't want to, cut you off, but I think we're done. If you don't have anything to, well, please say something.
No worries. I appreciate the time on the call, and we're excited for 6.7, and we're excited to make an impact in the market, both with our own merits and technology, and both with the market changes that are happening now. So it's exciting. The cloud is even more exciting to me as we move all these products into the cloud to help hosted desktops and ourselves. A little tidbit I'll drop here is these products will be for a hosted managed service next year sometime as well. So you'll see layering in the cloud, UEM in the cloud, and user experience monitoring in the cloud. It'll be a serverless install. Just install the client on-prem and you go off you are. So it'll be a fun ride for next year as well.
I look forward to that. I imagine it's going to live in the Amazon store, and boom, with workspaces and AppStream and all that stuff, and away we go. So I love it. I love to hear that. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I've always enjoyed having you on. I always enjoy chatting with you guys. I always enjoy seeing you at the conferences too. You're usually one of the first people I go search out, although I run into you in the hallways, because you're always so busy that I never get a chance to actually come up and say hello because I don't want to interrupt you. So I look forward to seeing you at VMworld this year. And maybe this time we can actually get some drinks. So we always say we do, but it never happens. What's up with that? So it's usually my fault though, right?
We'll figure it out. It'll happen.
We'll make it happen. Okay, guys, thank you so much.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, that concludes another successful episode of DABCC Radio. As always, I want to thank my guests for today, Jason and Jason from good old Liquidware. Thanks, guys. That is really exciting. Kudos to you. Really looking forward to getting this in my labs. And you guys are no longer Liquidware Labs, so I stole the labs, right? So I'm actually building I just built a big Amazon lab. So I wouldn't say big, but it's the start of a big Amazon lab. So quite excited about that. A lot of fun. So thanks, guys, for taking the time to come on and share with us what's new. Really exciting. For the people out there listening, I hope you check it out, because this is some good stuff. It's really groundbreaking, and it's just easy, but powerful, and that's what we all love. So with no further ado, I'll just say thanks to, of course, my guests, but thanks to you guys for listening to DABCC Radio. If you like the show, please tell a friend. This is how we grow. You know the routine. If you've been around, this is how we grow. So please share the links, dabcc.com/DABCC Radio. Or just dabcc.com. And you can head over to dabcc.com any time of the day. You can download our apps from the App Store and learn what's new in the cloud, virtualization, mobility, desktop, AI, IoT, big data, security, storage, you name it, world. And we're having podcasts all the time on DABCC Radio. I have a slew in the queue, so I just need to get these guys out. And please stay tuned. So tell a friend, head over to the website, and have a great day, guys. And thank you mostly for listening to DABCC Radio.
Can you say DABCC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.